This is my favourite person. This person, do you know Paulo Freire? Yeah, this person rocks. I feel like now I'm going getting appraised.
No, not at all.
I'll let you take one of these and pass it on. Paulo Freire. Has anyone else heard of Paulo Freire? Yeah, you've heard Jodine talk about him over and over again. Paulo Freire means a heck of a lot to me. Oh yeah, that's weird. I'm going to jump ahead one slide and come back. Paulo Freire, and you know how important stories are for me, but Paulo Freire was born in Brazil, and circumstances meant that at one point in time his family was thrown into extreme poverty. And so what I really appreciate about him as a theorist is he doesn't follow the same journey as every other theorist. He's actually had experience of actually having to crawl up, and that's what makes him quite alive for me. He went to university. His aim originally was to study law, and then he found himself struck with the poverty that he was seeing around himself. I feel so.
I can pop out.
No. He found himself. Just correct me whenever I'm wrong.
No, I won't.
He found himself questioning what was happening to keep the poor poor. And what he realised, and I remember when I was first exposed to him at Teachers College, because that was where I was first exposed, is that when you're using textbooks that exclude those who are reading those textbooks, then you're making the learning journey harder for them. So, and I do this quite often, and we get to do this later on, because we go back to him. I'll bring to you in a future date, we're going to look at some early history texts from New Zealand. Some really early history texts that we use to teach history in schools. New Zealand history. Now, even today we know that New Zealand history is not taught that well in schools. But the old history texts, they don't actually mention in any great detail the story of the Māori. They're written in such a way as we discovered New Zealand in the 1600s when Abel Tasman was doing a little tour around the world. Then our great navigator, James Cook. And I could just imagine how it would have felt for young Māori in Pacifica, and you heard me ramble on about stuff last week, but how it would have felt to be sitting in those classrooms and hearing the story of the we, but knowing that's not me. And how that alienates the person from learning altogether. And Paulo Freire, and I know last week I said to you, don't see me as your kaiako. I'm not. I'm journeying with you. I'm not, I hold a different set of knowledge, yes, but you hold knowledge to contribute as well. And Paulo Freire would say, there's a model of education, we'll look into it a bit further, and I'll show you a video of it, called the banking concept, where the whole idea is young people are seen as empty vessels, and they go to school and all the teacher does is go, deposit knowledge into that young person's head. When actually real education occurs in dialogue, when we're talking. And he really, I'm going to rave on, so he developed this whole program, and I've got some of his textbooks at home where he would bring in to communities pictures of activities being happening. And you know how Arden talked about those seven levels deeper when you keep going why? That's what they'll do with the pictures. Who was in the picture? Why did you say that? No, why did you say that? Where are you in the picture? Why aren't you in the picture? Why are you in the picture? And going so deep, what ended up happening is this whole literacy program that he developed, which would always centre on problems that were occurring in the community. It saw the illiteracy rates in Brazil go down and the literacy rates go up. The Brazilian government was not happy. He ended up in exile and he ended up in the US, where a lot of his ideas took off in the US. And he ends up back in Brazil at a later period of time. But he has a lot of people like myself who follow him and go, you know, and I was running a workshop last week for Ngā Pai Maramatanga on, it was so hard. I was in a room of all professors, Māori professors, running a workshop on how to research in Māori communities. Well, I tell you, that is scary. But they said to me at the end, what they really appreciated was that I always bring Freire back into the discussions, that actually if we want to bring change into the communities, it's about what he would call critical pedagogy or critical literacy. And the best way of defining that is reading and rewriting the world. Reading and rewriting the world. So, I think I'm... Oh, no. Back. So he sees education as a form of praxis. And what he means by praxis, and what I love about this term praxis, is praxis is about, it's not about an organisational praxis. It's about, on one hand, knowledge, on one hand, practice. Praxis. The action of knowledge. And that really comes from this quote from Marx here, all social life is practical. Everything we do has a practical purpose. When we inform it through our knowledge, when we actually start to reflect, when we go into that double loop space, when we start to ask those deep questions why, then we're actually fusing that knowledge and practice together to enable praxis. And praxis is that social space of change. It leads to massive creativity, because if you're at the space where you're bringing things together and you're asking why, you're actually going, well, maybe I might need to do something different. And I think this is quite important here, particularly for youth work, because often we do what we do because we do what we do. We don't actually ask why we do what we do. Oh, I do hip hop with young people. But why? Because they like it. But why? What's going on in their life? What can we really be doing this for? How can we actually make this transformative instead of dumbed down into just doing it what we do? Praxis always starts with a question, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. In fact, I talk about it a bit later on, he goes into what's called problem-posing education, and he's reacting completely against a guy called Dewey, who's from the United States, a pragmatist, who at the beginning of the last century said education should be about problem-solving. So you've got a problem like poverty, you solve it. Paulo Freire goes, you ain't going to solve it that way, man. You've got to ask why, rather than what's the solution. And lived experience is key. Working with the stories of those people that are in the room. Working with the stories of yourself, working with the practice that comes together when you create one story together. So, jumping to the picture of him again. We've already covered this idea of the banking concept and the idea he wants to know why are the poor always poor. And the best way of knowing who Paulo Freire is he understands education in the same way we do here in Aotearoa. Education is ako, teaching and learning together. They cannot be separated. In no way can you separate either of them. They both come together. And this word, I can't speak the Spanish. Do you know the Spanish term for it? Someone did, but he has this term called, this is not his original term, this is the English translation, which doesn't capture it very well, conscientisation, which basically is about a person knowing who they are in this world, and the mesh of equality and inequality, and the mesh of just absolute mess, being able to read that world critically and then rewriting that world. And you cannot be literate unless you can read, understand and write. If you can just read your world, you're not literate. If you can just go, like some of the kids that I've worked with, it's a fucking system, man. They always keep you down. No matter what you do, you're always going to be down. Okay, yeah, you're reading it, but you're not yet literate. You've got to rewrite it. You've got to be able to write your world, not just read it. Oh, now I've done that. So, choosing the custom from current slide.